Good morning, I'm Gretchen Hall. We're coming to you on this 13th day of August. It is a Wednesday, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. Senate President Cheese Escudero strongly rejected allegations that attempt to link him with a top flood control contractor. He described the move as a malicious demolition job designed to ruin his name. Speaking of flood control, Laguna Governor Sol Aragones and Ramon Ang have partnered to address persistent flooding through a major river widening and dredging project. This entire initiative will be privately funded, incurring zero cost to the government. And later on the show, what is the status of the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte? House Prosecution Panel spokesperson Attorney Antonio Bucoy will join us to break down the details. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, Senate President Cheese Escudero is pushing back against allegations linking him to a top flood control contractor, calling it a malicious demolition job against him. Here is a report.
15 contractors were named by President Bongbong Marcos as having the most flood control projects in the Philippines. One of the largest contractors for flood control projects in Sorsogon is Centerways Construction and Development, Inc. Its president, Lawrence Lubiano, is reportedly a friend and campaign donor of Senate President Cheese Escudero. In a press briefing, Escudero admitted they have long been friends but stressed he had nothing to do with the contracts.
Palaging dinidikit at sinasabi porkit nag-contribute o nagbigay. Matagal ko ng kaibigan at kakilala siya at tumutulong talaga sa amin. Mula't mula pa, nung hindi pa iso to. At tubong Sorsogon talaga siya.
Isa na lang, SP, for the record, lahat nung nakuha niya nung time na senador na kayo, wala kayong tinulong sa kanya?
Wala at hindi ko alam nga kung ano man yun. Dahil hindi ako bahagi ng kanyang kumpanya at wala akong pakialam sa kanyang negosyo.
Records show Lubiano's company bagged 44 flood control projects in 2022. Escudero explained he was still governor at the time, not a senator, and that the budget had already been crafted in 2021. But the Senate president suspects something else is at play.
I'll say malicious. Ill-timed article that came out against me in relation to the flood control press con of the president yesterday. Na merong demolition PR job na nakatuon laban sa akin. At tulad ng babala na isang kapwa ko senador na ito'y gagawin upang tiyakin na maalis ako sa pwesto at nang pag-final muli daw yung impeachment ay wala na ako dito pagdating ng February 6. Matagal pa yun.
He believes congressmen affected by the Senate's action on the impeachment are behind the move.
Bakit pinagtuunan ng pansin? Hindi yung mga mambabatas marahil o opisyal ng gobyerno na kontraktor, hindi naman ako kontraktor.
Several House leaders rejected Escudero's claim that the lower chamber is behind the alleged demolition job. They challenge him to name who exactly is responsible.
House Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno has denied claims by Escudero that members of the lower house are behind a demolition job against him. Puno told The Big Story that he has no personal knowledge of any public relations campaign targeting Escudero, stressing that such efforts would only worsen tensions amid ongoing investigations. Puno acknowledged it is no secret in political circles that Escudero is connected to a contractor, but maintained the House's role is to review expenditures, not to build cases or target individuals.
Our job really is to look at this, find out what really happened, and make sure that the negative things don't happen again. And I think that's what exactly we're going to do.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan has been elected as the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments and Revision of Codes, replacing Senator Robin Padilla. In this crucial role, Pangilinan will oversee the careful review and deliberation of proposed changes to the country's constitution. He pledged to ensure that the entire process remains transparent, inclusive, and consultative. Pangilinan emphasized that any constitutional amendments must genuinely reflect the aspirations and welfare of the Filipino people. Now, aside from heading the Committee on Constitutional Amendments, he also chairs the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Food, and Agrarian Reform. Malacanang is urging anyone with specific names or evidence related to alleged anomalies and kickbacks in flood control projects to come forward and report directly to President Bongbong Marcos. More in this report.
Malacanang has made it clear the investigation into alleged corruption involving flood control projects is not a witch hunt. This statement follows allegation from Senator Ping Lacson and Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong that 67 congressmen are receiving kickbacks from these projects. Magalong also revealed that those involved share best practices on how to steal from public funds.
Alam mo, nag-share pa nga sila ng best practice pag nag-usap-usap yung mga yan. Ganito kasi ang gawin mo.
In response, Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro challenged anyone with specific names or evidence to come forward and report directly to the President. She emphasized that providing complete details will help speed up investigations.
Idiretso na po nila to sa Pangulo kung meron silang particular na pangalan na alam at para po mas mabilis ang pag-iimbestiga. Welcome po lahat yan. At bigyan lang po nila ng kompletong detalye.
The Sumbong sa Pangulo website. This platform features a comprehensive list of flood control projects, allowing the public to monitor and provide feedback on government-funded infrastructure in their communities. There is no deadline for submitting complaints, but the palace urges everyone to take this process seriously.
Coming right up, Ramon S. Ang and Laguna Governor Sol Aragones have partnered to combat persistent flooding through a major river widening and dredging project. We'll talk about that more with Governor Aragones when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Laguna Governor Sol Aragones recently met with San Miguel Corporation Chairman and CEO Ramon Ang to discuss long-term solutions to the province's persistent flooding problem. Aragones thanked Ang for his commitment, calling the partnership a key step towards solving a decades-old issue. Ang said SMC will provide expertise, manpower, and resources for river dredging, clearing waterways, and installing flood control systems while following environmental standards. Aragones highlighted this partnership as a model of government and private sector collaboration that benefits residents without burdening public funds. And to talk more about this, we are now joined by Laguna Governor Sol Aragones on the show. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Welcome back to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen, at good morning sa lahat ng inyong mga tagapanood.
Hey, Governor, there is a partnership now between your province and Mr. Ramon Ang. Tell us more about that. Ano po yung mga napag-usapan po ninyo dun sa meeting at napagkasundoan?
Una, blessing sa amin, itong matagal na namin hinihintay na tulong para masolusyonan ang matagal ng problemang baha sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Nag-usap kami ni Sir Ramon Ang para magkaroon ng MOA para tulungan niya kami palalimin at palawigin ng mga ilog at iba pang development na pwedeng gawin para maibsan yung baha sa lalawigan ng Laguna. At gagawa kami ng MOA para gawin ito at siyayuhan habang kami naman sa provincial government ay bubuo ng task force kung saan involved din dito lahat ng mga mayors at iba't ibang stakeholders para paghandaan nga itong proyektong ito. Pero ang pinakamaganda, no cost sa provincial government at masusolusyonan ang baha ng lalawigan ng Laguna. Hindi ito instant, may proseso, pero handa kami maghintay sa proseso nito kasi finally andito na yung tutulong sa amin.
Oo. Pagdating po dun sa tulong na ibibigay po ng San Miguel Corporation, ano po exactly ang kanilang gagawin? I mean, because when you talk about flood control, there are various methods to this. Meron po yung river dredging na sinasabing kailangan nga po dyan sa Laguna de Bay. At meron din po yung mga drainage system. Ano po yung sakop nung kanilang tulong?
Gretchen, dredging ang gagawin ni Sir Ramon Ang ito. Sa katunayan, bago pa nga itong meeting na ito, ay nagsimula na rin sila. Bawa, kiniklear na nila yung San Pedro area, Binyan areas, nag-mapping na rin sila. So, bago pa yung meeting, talagang pinaghahandaan na nila ito. At natutuwa tayo dahil nagbigay na rin sila ng report sa atin, ano ba yung estado ng mga rivers dito sa lalawigan ng Laguna. So, we can plan para dun sa gagawin na dredging na gagawin din yan sa Metro Manila. So, nasa process kami ngayon ng coordination kung paano i-implement ang lahat ng ito.
Itong dredging ho, saan areas ho gagawin most likely? And where is this most needed?
Dito unang-una dyan sa mga San Pedro, Binyan areas, pinapakita rin namin kay Sir Ramon Ang at sa niya itong bahagi ng 4th District namin, yung mga baha-ina areas talaga at kung saan kumbaga nag-overflow yung tubig every time na may baha, no? So maraming areas ito, ang nasasabi pa lang namin sa kanya ngayon, yung nakita namin, at i-match namin ito doon sa mga nakita nila kasi may mga video rin sila. Actually, may drone pa sila na video to identify ano yung mga areas na kailangan for dredging. And we're hoping na may pinamahan kaagad. Ang bilis nga nila kasi nihanda na rin kaagad nila yung MOA for this. Talagang very serious to health Laguna. And kami rin naman, tomorrow, i-ready na namin yung task force para isa-isa na namin yung plan of action para matupad itong pangarap natin para sa Laguna.
Would you have any estimate as to how many kilometers they are planning to dredge and how deep at pati po yung magiging cost po nitong project? Kahit na nasasaluhin po ni Mr. Ang.
Sa ngayon, wala pa, Gretchen. Pag na-meet na namin municipal mayors after the formation of the task force, doon namin makikita no yung mapping, yung costing, ano yung mga areas na i-dredge, then we'll discuss it with Sir Ramon ang team, no? So, but important now ay yung matagal ng problema ng mga kababayan namin sa lalawigan ng Laguna, eto na may tutulong na. Actually, grabe yung yung reaction ng mga tao sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Sobrang tuwang-tuwa sila dahil alam mo, Gretchen, dito sa amin, merong mga umulan lang ng konti, pero yung tubig bago humupa 3 to 6 months, ganun katagal. Way of life na ng mga tao na merong tulay na kawayan na dinadaanan para lang makapasok sa school, makapasok sa trabaho. No? So ito yung mga sad stories na finally ay matutulungan na. Kasama rin namin dito si Congressman Arman Dimagila at iba pang mga opisyal na talagang ina-advocate nila itong solusyonan yung baha sa Laguna.
Actually, nakapunta nga po ako doon sa isa sa mga barangay, sa Barangay de la Paz, sa Binyan, Laguna. Ayun nga po, nirereklamo nga nila dahil buwan-buwan silang nakalubog sa baha. Pero dredging ho ba talaga yung parang pinaka nakikita niyong solusyon? I mean, because there is a House resolution by Binyan City Representative, yun nga kay si Congressman Dimagila, na wanting to review all existing flood control efforts and to consider the feasibility of large-scale dredging as an immediate and sustainable solution and to reassess nga yung effectivity ng mga naging flood control project.
Yeah, that's a good move from Kong Arman Dimagila. No? So we both agree na dredging talaga yung solusyon dito, but it's also good to review din yung mga existing na drainage and flood control natin dyan. So, I think secondary yon. But the immediate solution that we see talaga yung dredging talaga. So, it's a good move kasi naghain nga paano batas sa Kongreso habang kami naman sa provincial government ay nakikipag-usap naman kay Mr. Ramon.
Oo. Sabi niyo nga po sa inyong posted, no, si ultra-bilyonaryo Ramon ang mismo magbibigay ng tulong para ayusin ang problema sa baha. Walang gastos sa gobyerno. But alam niyo naman po yung kasabihan, no? There's no such thing as free lunch. People are asking what's in it for Mr. Ang? What's the catch here?
But during the interview, he mentioned na no cost ito. We will not ask even the tax, I forgot the term, pero parang wala kang hihingin kahit na yung libreng tax or whatever. Wala talaga. And nakita rin naman natin yung ginawa niya in the past na talagang tumutulong siya without anything in return. No? I mas magandang i-highlight yung salamat sa isang tao na nagmalasakit pero walang hinihinging kapalit. Not only dredging, Gretchen, nakapagsasolusyonan na ito, pero yung yearly na maintenance para dito, tututukan din talaga nila. So, it's a long-term project, it's a long-term plan na talagang hanggang dulo tututukan pa rin siya.
Some are saying that his interest here might be yung lupa, no, na makukuha mula doon sa dredging para to be able to augment yung low level also of the Bulacan Airport, which is also being built by the San Miguel Corporation. Would you know ano po yung gagawin doon sa makukuha na tambak na lupa pagkatapos po ma-dredge?
Yeah, so hindi pa namin dinidiscuss yung mga bagay na yan, Basta ang dinidiscuss lang muna namin yung dredging, yung plano sa lalawigan ng Laguna. And ako naman, Gretchen, ang trust ko dito, ang major concern ko dito, yung tulong na ibibigay. Grabe, the longest time, naghahanap kami ng solusyon para dito. And may dumating na tao na gagawa nito para sa amin. Sobrang thankful kami ang buong Laguna. We have more than 3 million residents in Laguna and we are all thankful for the help of Mr. Ramon. So I think we want to focus on that matter, like anything else.
Okay. If we take a look at the President's list of provinces that receive the most funding for flood control, wala pong Laguna ron. You, which is a little bit, for me, personally, shocking to me because Laguna de Bay is catch basin of many watersheds. Kamusta naman ho ang budget po ng inyong probinsya nung kayo ay umupo bilang governor? Ano po yung mga update dun sa mga flood control projects?
That's something that we are reviewing pa, Gretchen, sa flood control. Nabasa ko rin yan, nakita ko rin yun. Kaya sabi ko, it's also good to review din ano ba yung naging status ng flood control project sa Laguna. So, kasi nag-focus muna ako sa health nung unang buwan ko, and ngayon we're looking na rin doon sa flood, no? So, nire-review namin yan, pinapacheck din natin doon sa engineering office natin, yung mga projects about flood control din natin.
Oh, pero tama ho ba na may master plan na around the Laguna de Bay river system? And the plan is actually there.
Yes, I heard na meron na, but I haven't seen it muna rin eh. Kailangan makita ko talagang meron. And then, kailangan kong aralin pa rin siya in the next few days. Ayun, isa rin yan sa pag-uusapan namin dun sa task force na bubuuin namin. So, we'll check ano bang meron na, anong kailangan improve, anong kailangan ayusin. So, that's part also nung pagiging planning namin for the formation nitong ating task force for yung sa flood.
But to your assessment, what are the flood hazards in Laguna? Apart from the one that you mentioned kanina, na meron po kayong mga several barangays na lagi pong nakalubog sa baha dahil low level ito, what are the problems of the province when it comes to, yun nga po, yung pagbaha?
Well, alam mo, maraming areas like yan, ang Gulf sa Bae, dun sa 2nd District namin, sa 4th District, ang daming kailangang ayusin. Ibig sabihin, maraming kulang. Kaya maraming kailangang dagdagan at kailangang ayusin. So, i-identify namin lahat yan. Kasi 1 month pa lang ako ngayon as governor, so inaaral pa natin lahat, no? But sabi ko nga, hindi naman panahon para mag-isip saan ba nagkulang, sinong nagkamali. So, moving on, ano yung solusyon na pwede natin gawin? I would like to focus on that.
Correct.
So, ang importante, masolusyonan yung problema, may tutulong, at kami handa makipagtulungan dahil susolusyonan ang problema na walang cost. So, thank you very much to Mr. Ramon Ang.
Governor, meron po ba tayong update dito po sa Laguna Lakeshore Road Network? Ito pong, di ba Laguna Lakeshore Expressway Dike ay nung panahon pa ni Pangulong Aquino na na-bring up po ito. At ngayon, nag-evolve na siya to actually becoming a road network around the bay. Would you have any updates as to the progress of that project?
We are communicating with LLDA about it, no? So we're asking for the report. So we're still studying it and we'll update you once we have the report. Kasi gusto ko muna na kumpirmado yung mga detalye before ako mag-update tungkol dito.
Oo, kasi the President is centering on these flood control projects and doing a reassessment. So I guess it all begs us to look deeper into these concerns. But okay, thank you so much. Anything else that you'd like to say about the flood control?
Okay. Una, nagpapasalamat po ang buong lalawigan ng Laguna kay Mr. Ramon Ang sa blessing na ito. Kumbaga, matagal naming pinangarap at inintay ito. At hopefully, nandito na. Pero gusto ko rin sabihin, Gretchen, sa mga kababayan ko na hindi po ito madali, hindi isang mabilisang solusyon. May proseso, kailangan lang natin maghintay. Ang mahalaga, may unang hakbang na dahil may tutulong na po sa lalawigan ng Laguna. Gretchen, maraming salamat sa iyo sa pagbibigay ng chance na ikwento natin ang kwento ng lalawigan ng Laguna. Thank you, Gretchen.
Ang ibig sabihin po, hindi na po magre-request ng budget ang Laguna sa flood control kasi nakalibre na.
libre na. Oo. Malaking bagay ang libre. Diba? Yung ibang, ang maganda kasi direction, yung ibang pondo magagamit na lang namin sa social services, especially dun sa problema ng health ng lalawigan ng Laguna. So we are very, very happy sa development na to.
All right, maraming salamat po for joining us today and giving us updates on the plans for flood control in the province of Laguna. We have Laguna Governor Sol Aragones. Thank you so much for your time. Well, up next, the fate of the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte remains a key question. We will break that down with House Prosecution Panel spokesperson Attorney Antonio Bucoy. All that and more when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Wan here in Morning Matters. We talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. The camp of Vice President Sara Duterte has received the Supreme Court order to submit a comment on the House's motion for reconsideration. This is in connection with the ruling that declared the impeachment articles against her unconstitutional. According to legal counsel attorney Michael Poa, the VP has 10 days to respond. The defense team is still deciding whether to address the accompanying motions for intervention or simply file an opposition. Poa added that they are ready to comply with whatever directive the court issues. And as we know, the House Prosecution Panel is seeking a reconsideration of the Supreme Court's ruling that voided the impeachment articles against Vice President Sara Duterte. To discuss that, we are joined by House Prosecution Panel spokesperson Attorney Antonio Bucoy. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Magandang umaga rin sa iyo at sa lahat ng mga nanonood.
So you are still officially prosecution spokesperson?
Yes. Nothing has changed.
Okay. Just the turn of things.
Just the turn of events, yes.
Okay, which is better for the prosecution? Is it the archiving or the tabling? Which would you have preferred?
It would have been the tabling. Because should the Supreme Court grant us relief, all that the Senate has to do, or the Senate has to do is to reconvene as impeachment court. However, with the archiving, the court, the Senate has had introduced a new innovation, archiving, which means before the trial would resume, someone would have to make a motion to revive the articles from the archive, and they would have to vote.
So it requires another step.
2 steps.
Ah.
2 steps.
Ang sabi naman po ni retired Justice Ascuna ay pag naka-table ay maaaring ma-dismiss. Pero pag archive, pwedeng mabuhay ulit.
Hindi po. Yan ang pananaw ni...
Yan ang pananaw niya.
Opo. Iba ho yung, magkaiba yung aming anggulong tinitingnan eh. Magkaiba po.
Okay, you filed a motion for reconsideration before the Supreme Court. May I know what is in there? What are you asking them to reconsider exactly? It's been discussed that there could have been errors in facts. What is included in the MR?
How much time do you have for me to
enough
explain?
time to break this down for our audiences in a way that people could understand.
I'll encapsulate the arguments. The decision said, first, that the House of Representatives neglected and willfully took in action. They did not take action on the first 3 impeachment complaints. That's wrong, because the House took action by including the 3 complaints all together at the same time to plenary within the 10 session day period required by the Constitution. Second, the decision faulted the House Representatives for entertaining the 4th impeachment complaint, considering that it has violated the 1-year bar rule by reason of the inaction and archiving of the first 3 impeachment complaints, which the Supreme Court considered as dismissal, okay, and therefore considered as the initial action. So mali din po yun. Third, that the Vice President was deprived of her right to due process. Fourth, the court introduced innovations that were not in the Constitution by providing guidelines on how future impeachments under the second mode, which is endorsement by 1/3 of the members of the House. They introduced 7 requirements which were never been heard, which have been unheard of and not in the Constitution. And then finally, they applied their ruling, this new doctrine, which overturned Francisco and Gutierrez, these 2 cases, retroactively, not prospectively.
So yun po yung mga arguments natin.
Yes,
But-
7 points.
But did the House go to a plenary vote
Yes,
before it transmitted the articles to the Senate?
yes. In fact, when these were all referred to plenary, after it was included in the order of business within the 10 session day requirement, the House Journal itself and the congressional records will show that all 4 impeachment complaints were referred to plenary. After reading the first 3, then they read the 4th. Inasmuch as the 4th complaint was by virtue of the second mode, which is the self-executory mode, in as much as it had already garnered at least a third. Ito nga, 215 eh.
Ito pong mga signature sa plenary po yan nakuha.
The signatures were given, were secured prior to the filing of the complaint. Hindi sa plenary.
Okay.
So, that was according to the Constitution, if you already have one-third at least, it's self-executory. The Constitution says, this complaint shall constitute the articles of impeachment itself. With that event, the one-year period had been triggered. In fact, the Constitution does not require plenary to vote, to approve, if it's via the second mode of impeachment. But the House took an extra step, took an extra effort by voting to approve upon motion by the majority leader. So, sumobra pa, labis-labis pa yung pag-iingat na ginawa ng Kamara. Having transmitted the articles of impeachment, which was initiated by the second mode, when they went into upon suspension of session and then when they resumed, the majority leader again made a motion to archive the first three complaints because there was nothing left for Congress to do. The one-year bar rule had already been triggered by the second mode, which was transmitted to the Senate. So, baliktad ho yung naging findings ng Supreme
Pero nagkaroon
Court.
po ba ng affidavit? Nakapirma po ba yung mga congressman?
Oh,
Kasi
yes.
parang nandun sa House rules po yun.
Yes.
Na kailangan nilang pumirma.
They signed and they verified it. In
That
fact,
they read the articles
Yes.
of impeachment
Correct.
and that they know what
yes,
they were
they
signed.
have read it, they caused the preparation.
Meron po kayong kopya na.
Yes, in fact, that's attached to the articles. In fact, what the House did was copy verbatim the required verification in the House Rules of Impeachment. Hindi lang yung sa Rules of Court. Mas exacting yung ginawang verification ng 215
Correct.
that they have read, signed, and verified. Mas exacting ho yung kanilang verification. Ang sinunod nila, verbatim, yung form sa Rules of Impeachment ng House. Hindi lang yung the ordinary acknowledgement under the Rules of Court.
Pero ang question din po kasi ng iilan, ano po nangyari doon sa first three? Bakit po naupuan ito?
Hindi ito inupuan. Under the Francisco and Gutierrez doctrines, there is no preference under the Constitution or priority in terms of mode of filing. It can be the first mode, which is the complaint by a congressman or a complaint by a citizen endorsed by a congressman. Or the second mode, which is at least one-third. The Constitution doesn't say na we prefer this mode as against the other mode. There is no preference also as to the time of filing. As long as the one-year bar rule, and as long as the one-year bar has not been triggered yet. So, under the Gutierrez doctrine, the House can refer to plenary all impeachment complaints. Hindi ito first to file eh. They can refer, there can be multiple complaints, the multiple complaints individually can proceed independently as long as there is no initiation yet. So pwede ho yan sabay-sabay i-refer, which is what the House did. Which is what the House did. So, hindi pinabayaan.
But how about the argument or the debate over the 10 session days, the 10th or the 11th?
No, the 10 session day period, like I said, pasok ho dyan. All four. They were
Help
all...
us understand bakit pumasok. Kasi yung iba nga po ang sinabi, 11th na.
Ganito, no? Yung December 2, yung pinakaunang complaint eh. That was the very first. Ang session days sa Senado, hindi calendar days. Okay? Ang one session day can mean 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, or 1 week. depending on when they convene and when they adjourn. When they adjourn, that's the end of one session day. So siguro sila nagtataka, December 2 pa yan. Ni-refer February 5. That's more than 10 days. Hindi calendar days yan. It's session days. So pasok lahat yan because there's a December 2 complaint, yung una, there's a December 3, and then there's the December 9, plus the February 5. They were all referred, included in the order of business within that 10 session day period.
Ibig sabihin, kailangan working day ito.
No. It's session day.
Oo,
May
session.
sarili hong session calendar ang Kongreso eh. Na gaya
Okay.
nabanggit ko, it can be 1 day, 2 days, or 1
So
week.
the 2/3 or 1/3 vote was passed on the 10th session day.
The 1/3 vote endorsement by the congressmen was garnered even before it was filed. Kailangan may at least 1/3 na eh.
But it was filed on the
On the 10th,
10th
within the
session
10th
day. That's
session
the
day.
argument of
Yes.
the
That's not
prosecution.
the argument, that's the fact.
Okay.
And that's supported by the congressional records.
Were you given sufficient space by the Supreme Court to hear this, to be able to dissect all of these facts?
These
ano
were
pong
all-
hinihingi po sa inyo
Okay.
ng Korte Suprema bago po sila nagdesisyon?
With respect to the first petition, we were able to file a comment. Okay? If you will recall, a subsequent petition, a supplemental petition, was initiated or filed by the Davao lawyers. We were not given the chance to comment on the second petition. On the supplemental petition, what the court did was, the court issued an order requiring the House to answer specific questions. So the House addressed only those questions.
And were those questions centering around these facts?
Yes.
Oh.
These were all dealt with or addressed, including that House journal, which was submitted to the court to prove that the complaints were acted upon timely, seasonably, within the 10 session day period. However, when the decision came out, it's as if the court did not read or consider what was in those records. This was filed in the compliance. This was included in the compliance. But this was not addressed by the court. On the contrary, the court said there was a violation because it was not taken up at plenary, meaning the fourth impeachment complaint, before it was transmitted to the Senate. It was. It was taken up in plenary.
Okay,
And there was a
So
vote.
what do you think would make this motion for consideration convincing if you're presenting the same facts?
We have presented the same facts, but we're raising them anew because there is a necessity for the prosecution to call the attention of the court or remind the court that these are in the record. These arguments had been laid down. So we just had to expound anew and to remind the court that with due respect, please revisit the decision. If you will now note, there are now 5 pending motions for reconsideration.
Tama ho.
The first and primary was the one filed by the House. And then the 3 others were filed by the proponents of the first 3 impeachment complaints. Even they agree with the position of the House. And finally, a petition for a motion for intervention and to admit the motion for reconsideration was instituted by Sambayan, spearheaded by former Senior Associate Justice Carpio and Associate Justice Conchita Carpio Morales, who penned, she was the ponente of the Gutierrez case. Yung doktrina doon, ang ponente, si Justice Carpio Morales. Ang masama pa ho dito, if I may revisit what I previously said, instead of applying this doctrine prospectively, the court said, no, retroactive to. But the doctrine prevailing at the time all these acts,
Mr. Francisco,
acts were
versus H.
performed, the doctrine prevailing were the Francisco and
the
Gutierrez
Gutierrez.
doctrines. How can the House comply with a doctrine that had not yet existed? So, effectively, the House was penalized for following the law and following the doctrine laid out by the Supreme Court, by the same Supreme Court prevailing at the time.
Just the doctrine of operative facts.
That is, yes, doctrine of operative fact, meaning if there is an overturning of doctrine, if there's an amendment to the law, you apply it prospectively, not retroactively. So, pinagalitan kami, ang House was faulted by the court for not obeying a doctrine that had not existed.
Tingin niyo ho ba mahihirapan na ma-overturn itong ruling ng Supreme Court? Si Senator Marcoleta na po nagsabi, medyo imposible yata yung
Dahil 13-0.
pag unanimous ang boto ng Supreme Court, magbabaliktad sila, papalitan nila
The Supreme Court, there are precedents in this. There were previous cases wherein the Supreme Court voted unanimously also on a certain decision, on a doctrine. And they reconsidered and reversed themselves. Nangyari na ho yan. This would not be the first time. And like you mentioned, the arguments in the motion for reconsideration filed by the House, as well as the arguments raised by the 4 other motions for reconsideration in intervention, are all compelling. So, again, we earnestly hope that the Supreme Court will take a second look. Will take a second look, rather than just leave this decision as it is, without correcting it. This sets a terrible precedent.
If this motion for consideration is not granted, you will refile, the House will refile
Yes,
again
we will.
this coming February 6th.
Yes, I think, yes, we will.
And given the new requirements set by the Supreme Court in initiating an impeachment complaint,
Yes.
and all that come with it, how are you planning to do this differently? Unahan na ba yan?
We plan to do it carefully, more carefully. And under the existing doctrine, existing decision, not doctrine, as if unreversed, in street language, unahan sa draw.
Unahan po yun.
Unahan sa draw yan. But which the Constitution never...
Required anyway, in the first
the
place,
Constitution
na may unahan.
did not. There is no such concept in the Constitution. Like I said, there is no preference. Ang sinasabi ng saligang batas, there are 2 modes. Okay? The first mode, which I mentioned, na may referral to the Committee on Justice, and the second mode, yung at least a third, na self-executory, automatic articles na yan. Hindi sinabi na kung sino maunang mag-file, unang complaint na i-file, yan na yun. There is no preference of mode, there is no preference of timing. But as it stands now, if unreversed, unahan sa filing. No matter how capricious, no matter how baseless, no matter how unsubstantial yung complaint, all that the impeachable officer would have to do is have someone file a baseless complaint, have it referred to the committee, and then, triggered na yung 1 year. Triggered na.
Okay, but this time around, kasama po dun sa mga requirements ay yung pagpipresenta ng ebidensya. Napapabasa nyo na po sa lahat. At you're gonna give the accused sufficient time or a chance to be heard and the supporting evidence to prove the charges prior to transmittal to the Senate. How difficult would that be?
It's not just those, no? First, among the 7 guidelines, first, that there must be a detailed, convincing evidence in support of the complaint.
So dapat nakalapag na lahat?
Yes. Number 2, the impeached officer must be provided with the articles and with these pieces of evidence. Number 3, she must be allowed to respond. Second mode ito, we're talking of the second mode, not the first mode. Fourth, all members of Congress, not just the one-third who endorsed the impeachment complaint, should be provided with the articles and with all attaching,
The pieces of evidence.
yes, all pieces of evidence. Number 5, they must execute a sworn statement, an affidavit, saying that they have read and they have
So pag hindi po
understood.
napirmahan yun, pwede rin pong mastall itong mga impeachment, yung pag-refer to the Senate.
Yeah. But let me finish the 7.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 6, there should be a deliberation by the plenary, and they must vote in favor of the articles of impeachment. Bakit ho ito mali? May 1/3 na na nag-endorse. Why do we have to vote again and get the 1/3? May 1/3 na. What is the danger here? An influential, impeached officer would be given an opportunity to overturn the 1/3 by legal or extra-legal means. Okay? It can subvert the process. And finally, yung 7th, the hearing in the plenary must be attended by the impeached official.
So pag hindi rin po siya nag-attend, pwede rin po hindi
She can waive.
makumpleto itong
She can waive.
itong pitong requirements na
She can
ito.
waive. She can waive naman. Although hindi sinabi yan, but it's implied. So 7 that are nearly impossible. Wala ka nang mai-impeach via the second mode, which is supposed to be self-executory. Via the second mode, it's nearly impossible to impeach any impeachable impeachable
Is it
official.
possible that the Supreme Court will realize the transcendental impact of this decision
That's
on
what we hope.
future impeachment complaints?
Yes, that's what we hope. If we will recall, again, I would like to stress, it is not just the House now which has sought a reconsideration. A lot of other groups have filed independent motions.
What do you think about the suggestion of retired Justice Ascuna saying that they can somehow manage the impact of this decision by filing a supplemental resolution saying that this case, the ruling is for this case only?
That is acceptable. That is one way of curing.
Given that because of the unusual
Yes.
circumstances surrounding.
But that's only part of curing the decision, which I said were based on erroneous premises and misapplication of law and jurisprudence. That's only one. More importantly, is to fix the portions of the decision which we perceive as intrusion into the prerogatives of the House, intrusion into the authority of the House as initiator of impeachment proceedings. Dapat to ma-address din yun Hindi lang yung prospectivity, but the more basic would be to address the questions of diminishment of the powers of Congress as initiator. Mas mahalaga. And what is perceived as judicial amendment of the Constitution. Why amendment? Wala hulat to sa saligang batas.
Do you think there are enough safeguards against the other argument that the impeachment complaint was mostly about politicking, which was put on record by many senators that the charges versus the vice president are politically motivated?
Listen, impeachment is a mechanism in the Constitution to enforce accountability. It is not for politicking. This is not about 2028. This is not about a single person, the vice president. This applies to everyone, all impeachable officers. The problem is the current situation favors an individual, regardless of at the expense of the people, the body politic. The current situation shields an individual, not the body politic. if there is a balancing of interest between an individual's rights and the rights of the public, the body politic, the scale of balance should be tilted in favor of the body politic. Dapat ang sambayanan.
And given that situation, how confident are you that if you refile on February 6th, that you'd get enough votes
We just
to
said-
have this go through?
We just have to deal with the situation. We just have to face it. Simply because it seems insurmountable, we'll just give up. We are for accountability.
Alam ko po if you take a look at the Constitution, the Vice President, it's not stated explicitly that she is immune from suit, but parang if you take a look at practice, medyo it's not done. But
She's
is
not.
it possible to go that route to have accountability?
That's one recourse.
Oo.
But that's why there's a mechanism of impeachment. It is an immediate relief. It should provide an immediate relief to society. Okay? The Vice President is not among those with immunity from suit in the executive.
Oo.
It is just the President.
So pwede po siya makasuhan
That's one route. Okay? But that
to
takes...
get because I remember you being very confident with the pieces of evidence
Yes.
that you have. At ito yung ayaw makita.
Ang impeachment is for accountability. That recourse through the regular courts, that is to enforce liability, penal liability. Okay, yung criminal cases may be filed, against the Vice President, etc. That's another avenue. But that is not an instant, immediate.
Medyo matagal.
Matagal.
Okay.
Kaya nga ang impeachment process,
Baka wala na po sa posisyon
wala na,
ng
moot and
vice.
academic na. Kahit na maging moot, there's still criminal
Pero
and
if it's-
liability.
Kung
Okay?
manalo po siya sa 2028, naging immune pa rin po siya. No?
Magiging siyang immune kung maging presidente siya. Magiging immune. Ngayon, wala siyang immunity.
What would you have to say to the Senate President saying there is a move to unseat him, given ito pong lumabas sa Rappler na isa pala sa mga main contractors of the government, Centerways Corporation, is the owner is his primary donor, the biggest donor in his campaign. What would you have to say to that?
Hindi nasaklaw ng aking mandate yan. I'm for the impeachment. Kung ano man yung politics that goes on, the politics involved that's going on in the Senate, that's beyond me. I would rather not comment. Ako, impeachment lang. Ayoko ng panghimasukan pa yon.
But could you comment on the hearings on the Senate floor and the debate that went on amongst the senators? What was going on in your mind while you were watching?
They got it wrong. I mean, the proponents got it wrong. Completely. Mabuti pa yung tatlong hindi abogado who stood up and spoke on behalf of the people. Senators Ping Lacson, Tito Soto, and Risa Ontiveros. They absolutely got it. And they were citing authority. They were citing factual records. They were citing jurisprudence. I'll leave it at that.
And with that, we shall await the decision of the Supreme Court with the House's motion for consideration. And if not, the February 6 refiling of the impeachment it does make the process more interesting. Before we even get to any trial, it's theater in itself, right? Thank you very much for joining us this morning and explaining, breaking things down for us. We hope you understood all the facts that matter and the context surrounding the facts. We have House Prosecution Panel spokesperson, Attorney Antonio Bucoy.
Always a pleasure.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.